We'll call the Tuesday, November 28th Middlebury Selectboard meeting to order. First item is approval of agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any changes? We have, is it 9?
We'll be deferring consideration of the purchase of the pavement line striper and driver until your meeting on the 19th. So that's
Okay.
9.
So pulling 9 off until the next agenda. Anything else? Hearing nothing else, all in favor of approving the agenda with the one modification signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next is approval of the consent agenda.
I move.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Is there anything anybody would like to call attention to in the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented signify by saying aye. Aye.
Just abstain on the minutes.
What's that?
I'd abstain on the minutes.
And you're abstaining on the minutes. Okay. Yes, that's right. Citizen comments. I don't see anybody here. Is there a hand up in the audience at all? Not seeing any. Next item is consideration of the applications for membership to the Select Board's policy reviews.
We did have a hand up by Hescock.
Okay.
Good evening, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you for your time this evening. Thank you for all that you do. My name is Dave Hescock. I live on High Street. First, I'd like to make 2 comments. I'd like to ask 2 questions and make 2 requests. First comment, the roads in the village area of this town are atrocious. Some being patched year after year on what looks like extreme rationing of material. This is essentially a tax on people. Roads are awful. Second comment is the operating principles of the Select Board as adopted on March 14th, 2023 state. Identify the most critical areas facing Middlebury community in areas such as infrastructure improvement, and other points follow. Then establish the funding and project priorities needed to address them. This is the priorities that this is the guiding principles that you all sign. This is listed on the town's website. What I just read is right at the top of this 3-page document, so I think it's very important that be noted that the Select Board has signed on to infrastructure. Question number 1, why have the roads been allowed to get so bad? That's a pointed question, but I would like an honest answer. And then question 2, when will the roads be properly repaired, specifically Seminary, High Street, Springside? Request number 1, town makes emergency repairs to Middle Road from Lodge Road to Route 7. If any of you guys have not driven on Middle Road, I would recommend doing that to see what I'm talking about. And request 2, Select Board from now on prioritize maintaining our roads better.
Can I?
Absolutely.
This is Heather Seeley, on the infrastructure committee. I don't know how to answer all of your questions, but if you are able, this Thursday morning at 9:00, we are going to be reviewing the capital budget. And if you're interested and can attend, it would be a great way to see all of the money that we're spending on infrastructure projects, all that we're putting in the budget, what it all costs, how much we get done. Emily's on. I don't know if she can join, but we did do quite a bit of paving this construction season. We just are a little bit behind, and we are prioritizing it, and we are addressing it annually with a list of projects. But I can't tell you specifically when the streets you're requesting are on the schedule.
Okay.
Emily, sorry to-
Thursday morning would be a good time to ask maybe.
Yes, and we'll be reviewing the capital budget, and you can see what we're proposing to put in that budget for paving for the next fiscal year. And Emily's on. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Emily. If you know off the top of your head, or maybe we can just get back to him.
If you email me, I can give you the overall. Next year, we were planning to focus more sort of in that area, but not really specifically. But I can give you the overall scheme of how we're coordinating it. This past year, we were sort of working in the southeastern part of town, and now we're moving up to the northeastern part. And we are changing our paving plans slightly so that we're not focusing on replanning, but doing more shit and overlay so that we can capture with these areas that are really deteriorating quickly. Part of my concern, we want to do the water tower, the water tank up on Shipman Hill, and so that area was sort of all going together in that package for when we do Springside Road and cemetery, and that whole part of town was all sort of formulated to go together to capture that. But feel free to email me, or you can stop down. I have it all written out on a chart in my office.
Okay, yeah, that would be really helpful. That's what I'm after. I mean, I'm speaking tonight to make a point. The roads are bad, really bad, and I stand by that. It's a tax on people. So I need to be kind of pointed, but it sounds like that's legitimate answer, so I appreciate that. And I will follow up with you, Emily, and then I think if I have time, I'll sit in on Thursday's meeting, so thank you.
Okay. I think the other piece to keep in mind is sometimes we have bigger infrastructure projects planned. Like right now, we're working on Warm Lane, for example, doing a water line, redesigning the water line over there. And so those roads are also atrocious, but there's little point in going in to spend a lot of capital on paving, and we know we're going to get it all up within a couple of years. So sort of pack it together to band-aid it for now in hopes that we can get it to that further window and we can do a better job of doing repairing.
Can you turn the volume up a little bit, Kathleen?
Yeah.
Speakers or something?
Okay, let's see what we can do.
Okay, are there any other hands up? Then we'll go to consideration of the applications for membership to the policy committee. We've got 4 applicants: John Frieden, Nancy Malcolm, Dean Realm, and Susan Shashak. And we had already appointed Gary Baker, Beth Dow, Izzy Gogarty, Andy Hooper, Kathleen Ramsey, and David Zalfrin to the committee. I think a fair place to start is to come up with a target of how large the committee
I
was.
was going to ask how many are we going to
Yeah,
appoint?
we discussed this at our inaugural meeting, and I suggested, and it was agreed, that 7 members was kind of the outer limit where we expected to be able to have useful conversation that everyone could take part in.
So that means we are adding only 1.
Well, except that Brian included 3 staff members, not all of whom are expected to attend and who are expected to serve in administrative roles rather than in discussion and in taking these matters off to research and bring back to the group.
So who are the members then?
We got Gary, Izzy, and Andy would be the 3
Okay.
non-staff, if that's what.
That's the way I read it.
So you are the voting members.
Yeah, I don't know how much voting there is likely to be, but yeah, voting members.
It would be safe to say we can add 2.
That takes it to 5.
We can definitely add 2. The thing that we haven't done yet, and we were waiting to bring people on before we did, was figure out a time when we could meet to put a monthly or bi-monthly. I forget which is twice and which is half. A monthly or every other monthly meeting on the books, and we're waiting to get some interest together before we tried to find a time slot that worked. That's very interesting.
It's Nancy's. It's Nancy's.
Very nice.
Well, that thing didn't work.
Apologies.
No worries.
Maybe it was the speakers here.
So we're gonna, how many are we gonna take, and are we gonna appoint them tonight?
No, we're just gonna put them in the,
I mean nominate them.
yeah.
We're nominating.
Yes.
Okay.
It says approve the appointment of, not nominate.
Oh, no, we're doing it? It's your call with these. As a select board subcommittee, you could either do a two-step process
Yeah.
or.
Yeah.
do it in one step process.
I think with this being a fresh launch, I am fine with taking all comers at this point.
Mhm.
And we can let it a trite if it does. But these are 4 highly qualified people.
Yeah.
And I think they bring a wealth of experience and interest to this group.
It's also the kind of committee that's going to have a lot of homework. so to
Indeed.
speak.
Yes,
So
that's
it's
right.
nice to share the homework.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think if it's acceptable to appoint them all, then we should appoint them all tonight.
Be done with it.
Huzzah.
Make a motion.
I'll move to approve the appointment of John Frieden, Nancy Malcolm, Dean Rayum, and Susan Shashok to the Town of Middlebury Select Board's Policy Review Committee.
Second.
Any comments on the?
It's a nice variety, which
Yeah.
is unusual.
Is it not amazing that we have 4 applicants for the Policy Review Committee? Like a few
Amazing.
years ago, it was like, nobody wanted to be
One.
on that committee.
Well,
I think it's
Like we
fabulous.
said a couple weeks ago, there's some issues out there that this is going to be a fun committee with some of the things that they can tackle.
I
'Cause
think it
we
could
don't
be.
have time to do it here.
That's right. And I hope that it takes some of the burden off of staff, stuff that we would bring to them to investigate that we can do with this group.
Great.
All right, so we have a motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Well,
Fantastic.
that's-
Thank you, Nancy, for coming.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay, next is malt request for letter of support for the 2023 Vermont Outdoor Recreation Economic Collaborative. Grant app.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm here, and I have a map, if you guys want to just spread that around. So yeah, hello, everybody. My name is Liam Hickey, and I'm the new Trails and Volunteer Coordinator at Malt. And apologies, I'm a little nervous. It's my first time doing anything like this, so.
Relax.
Welcome.
We don't bite very hard.
Great.
We're very fancy people.
So yeah,
Listen to them.
as the agenda says, I'm here today to ask for or request your approval for a letter of support for our application for the VOREC grant. We're looking to do some improvements to the trails at Wright Park. And you can see on the map that I just passed around, I've kind of laid out on the map some of the bigger points of the project. And so we're hoping to have your support or your approval for our letter of support to do all these improvements. As you guys probably all know, pretty much every outdoor recreation area has seen increased usership since COVID-19, and Bright Park is no exception to that. And so we feel like it's a good time for us to really put some investment into those trails and really improve on them and make sure that we sustained quite a bit of damage there during the flooding events earlier this summer. And so we want to sort of there's been a track added to this VOREC round this year. that is specifically for flood recovery and resilience, which is the track we'd be applying for. We're trying to upgrade and improve all our infrastructure in Wright Park to be more resilient to future flooding events. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the projects.
Any questions from Liam?
How much, I don't think it said anywhere how much you're applying for.
Right. Yeah, we're still working that out because we're kind of still making decisions on what we want, which parts of the project we want to bring contractors in, and which parts we want to try and do it in-house with like volunteer support and stuff. But we've got a very ballpark figure I was working on today. We're going to be applying for somewhere between 165,000 and 221,000.
Okay,
Great.
great, thank you.
And because we've already done this for the skate park, has no impact on us doing this from all.
It's, the town is sponsoring the skate park one itself.
Okay.
So we will be submitting the grant application. So Malta will be a competitor of ours, but it does sound like they're in a different category with that flood
That's-
resiliency.
Yeah,
Right.
and
That's
it's
what I
my
was thinking.
understanding, we were looking into it once you told us that you guys had applied for the skate park, and it's my understanding that you can be a supporter of any number of these applications. You can only be the lead applicant on one application. So,
Great.
I imagine theirs is the outdoor equity track.
no, ours is the flood.
No, not yours. I'm saying the
Right.
skate park is probably the outdoor equity.
Good. Any other questions?
This is great. I don't spend any time in Wright Park. I'm up on the Chipman Hill side of Cam and spend my time on those trails. But this is a lovely trail network, and I'll try to get down there.
Yeah,
That's good.
Oh, it's a great.
That's a
spot.
good one.
Nice.
That's nice.
I love to snowshoe down. It's
Really?
it's great for snowshoeing.
Can you do something about bugs though?
Unfortunately, can't do anything about the bugs.
This is the
The
epicenter
river,
of
if
bugs.
you get down along the river here, the view is really beautiful. And I love to snowshoe. It's very flat, not
Flat.
a lot of elevation, so snowshoeing is, it's really great. Anyway,
Cool.
I'll move to approve the draft letter of support presented by the Middlebury Area Land Trust for their 2023 Vermont Outdoor Recreation Economic Collaborative Grant Program application,
Well done.
Second,
which,
sorry.
so I got to read the whole thing.
Sorry.
Which,
Yeah, we-
which if granted by the state will be used to improve infrastructure at Wright Park.
Okay,
Go ahead.
moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Is this the sort of, are these projects things that you're going to be looking for volunteers to?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
There's probably going to be a lot of volunteer work requested to do like the demo on the old structures that are already there, so that they can be replaced with new structures. That's, I think, going to be one of the main things that we ask for volunteers to do. And then we'll also be working with a couple of volunteer groups to do some of the bigger projects. Like we work with the Counseling Services of Addison County. They have a forest summer crew that kind of comes out and does 2 weeks of trail work with us. And the Hannaford Career School Center school kids do a lot of work with us.
I run the teen center. Can you sign us up for demolition?
Yeah, absolutely. If you just shoot me an email, I'll get you guys onto our list and everything. So.
That will be the most exciting thing that has happened.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take the sledgehammer.
Exactly.
Yep.
Also
Thank you
my
so much.
demolition
Good luck.
very well.
We only want demolition
Chief?
patients for.
Chief's got a proposal on the sheriff's department, MOU on the dispatch for us.
I think this is an easy one.
Sure is.
Back in January-ish of 2023, we entered a short-term trial run with Sheriff's Department providing dispatch services for them. They were previously dispatched by Rutland County Sheriff's Department, but they asked us if we'd be interested, so we tried it. It worked out. Then back in June, we signed a 7-month contract with them. I just met with the sheriff recently and our senior dispatcher to revisit how it's going. Everybody is happy. They are very happy. They had no complaints. They had no additional requests for us, no room for improvement. And they were completely interested in renewing that contract with us for the next 12 months. This contract will expire at the end of the calendar year. The rate we had set at that time, the reimbursement rate was $1,000 a month. They agreed to double that to $2,000 a month starting January 1st. The better news is we had to replace our dispatch console on a 5-year finance plan. That per year, and we made our first payment August 1st, is $23,739 a year.
Amazing.
This is $24,000 a year we're talking about. So it completely pays for that dispatch console that we are paying for until August 1st, 2027 will be our final payment. It's a win. Everyone is happy with the arrangement. They wanted to continue. We're happy to continue.
I love this. You're not feeling like staff is crushed by the.
No, not at all. Actually, our senior dispatcher, very experienced dispatcher during the day, said totally doable. Asked if there's more that we can do for them. They're totally satisfied with the level of service that we are able to provide them versus what they had before. They're very, very happy with.
Wonderful.
And we've talked about improving in the future their hours. They don't do a lot of weekend hours now. They may expand that, and we'll accommodate them as much as we are able to accommodate with our current dispatching staff. But no, it hasn't limited our dispatch staff's ability to do their other job and to provide dispatch services for us. We're only handling radio calls for them. We don't handle their telephone calls or administrative calls. Those would still go to their facility during the day. We are just doing their radio work for them. And it's, it's 2024 now, so we all have computers in our cars. We're able to operate semi-independently, depending if there's cell service. In some of the areas they operate, there isn't. But really, it's about, it's a safety net. Dispatchers on the other end of the radio, keeping tabs on the deputies that are out there. That's their primary function. And sometimes they're not able to use their computers for everything. The dispatchers will pitch in, but there has been a really good working relationship. It's had the benefit as well to place us in closer contact because we're on the same radio frequency now, as opposed to being on different radio frequencies when we have major events. For example, the active shooter we had right outside the police department, I was able to be on the radio requesting deputies to come shut the roads down for us. And that was going out live over a shared frequency because they operate on our radio frequency. So they heard that. There was no delay in calling other agencies or switching radio frequencies. And we have asked for their assistance in several larger cases, and we've been able to bring them to bear more quickly. So again, this is a win-win.
Win.
Yeah, awesome.
I love it.
Yeah.
Great.
How much work is it for the MPD to provide this service?
So David just asked me that question. It's an interesting question, the average daily calls. And I would say a lot's dependent because they may have other things. They do contract work, but primarily what we're doing for them are traffic stops, motor vehicle stops. They have traffic enforcement contracts with some towns.
Sure.
And I would say it could range anywhere from 20 to 50 calls. And typically they're on duty. They're maybe 6, 7 a.m. to maybe 6 p.m. Sometimes they go later. Sometimes there are dedicated enforcement campaigns going on, like through Thanksgiving holidays. So the enforcement might be increased, might be longer hours. But I have not heard a single complaint from our dispatchers that they can't keep up.
That's what I'm asking. It's not a huge strain on you guys.
Not at all, and especially because the deputies, our officers, any officer in the state is able to operate independently. What they're doing is they're calling out on the radio the traffic stop. So they're telling the dispatcher where they are. They're stopping this car in case they're not heard from again. So we know where to look for them, and we know. But checking the person's registration, their license, much of that is occurring by the officer in the car at the time through the computer system.
Okay. Cool.
And older times, the dispatcher would have to do all that.
Right.
So a constant radio traffic, dispatcher entering information, the computer searching information through databases. It's not as labor intensive for the dispatcher. They still occasionally do have to do that.
Yep.
And there is data entry on the dispatcher's part, but it's much more limited. And again, there was no feeling that they are being overwhelmed, and it's not affecting our dispatch center's ability to provide the service they've always provided.
Great.
Pleasure of the board.
It's an easy one.
I'll move to approve the proposed one-year contract beginning 1/1/2024 between the town of Middlebury and Addison County Sheriff's Department for the town to provide dispatch services to the Sheriff's Department for a $2,000 a month fee.
Second.
Seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Chief, while I get you here for a second,
Certainly.
how are things going with our task force? Has there been another?
There was a meeting last week, I believe, and progress. The situation under the bridge is kind of status quo. No one that we know of is spending the nights there now. The weather has turned. The activity there now is the day drinkers, as that's what's really going on. But Some have left for the winter. One in particular that was staying there is staying at a hotel, I believe, on the voucher program in Rutland right now. And one of the other residents is staying at the Charter House for the winter, but some are appearing during the day. The task force is continuing to meet. I don't know what the latest is, continuing outreach. There's been talk, this state has reinstated the hotel program with contingencies based on weather, based on temperature,
Yep.
what eligibility would be. But we are continuing, our patrols have continued, but the biggest, I was just speaking to one of the shift supervisors today, saying what they're noticing the most down there is the need for a cleanup. That there are, the bridge above itself could probably use some pressure washing, things like that. But he, at the same time, he told me that one of the people that was staying there, it's now there only during the day, is very intent on keeping it clean. I believe he's the one we call kind of the de facto head of the group. I think is worried about the town taking a stand against them being there over the winter, and is trying to police it himself a little bit. So, had an interaction the other day, he was adamant about cleaning up. And so this is a tough one. The task force, I don't know when the next meeting is. I read the notes from the last one. The Charter House is kind of taking the lead now on arranging this, and they're the best agency to do that, the best entity to do that. But acknowledging that there are so many complexities here that it won't be solved, in that with the warm weather will bring a return to probably larger numbers of people. I even in the worst of the winter weather, I don't believe we'll have people sleeping there, but it's just not sustainable to do that. The tents that are there, I'm being told, they're sleeping bags in them, that people are not sleeping in them right now. They come there during the day, they're storing their things there. But I think even during the winter, we may see some campfires there. People like that spot for whatever reason. We had a recent local who tried it out down there. We ended up arresting her on arrest warrant, and she reported that she gave it a shot, too cold. She didn't like that spot. So some like it, some don't. But for whatever reason, those that do like it, they seem to be there for the long haul. And officers have had discussions with them about other areas. And I don't know that that's been all that fruitful. They like that area, they being the ones that are choosing to stay there more. But we have had no additional vandalisms, and that female that we talk about so much has been back from time to time. Her and her boyfriend have been back. They kind of reappear, then they disappear, then they come back. He was just arrested in Rutland today, as a matter of fact, on an outstanding arrest warrant. So that told us that they were back in Rutland temporarily. But I imagine they will come back at some point. They have a car now, and the only vandalism to a vehicle we've had was her vandalizing her own in the parking lot back there earlier in the month, I believe.
Weird move.
So the tempo and I have not personally heard from, I don't know if the officers have heard from any of the business owners in the immediate area, Mr. Ups, Haymaker, about any issues. We haven't gotten the calls we were getting. And when we go through, I see cars parked there, but I don't know. The tents seem to be remaining. One of the gentlemen said he did intend to take his tent down, but I don't know what the holdup is in that, because I think it's probably because he's returning there during the day, at least for now. This conversation may be different in January, when the weather is much less accommodating. But it's not unheard of to have people on that riverbank in the winter, especially during the day. If we have a sunny winter day, it's possible.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for the update.
Certainly.
Thank you, Chief.
You have Emily for the next one, or? Yep, there's Emily now.
Oh, had me on my toes tonight.
Sorry, Emily.
Ahead of schedule.
You're on, you're off.
So this is an easy one. We're just trying to replace some guardrails. Two sections are a replacement and one is a new installation all related to the August and July storms. High Street, where the two landslides occurred, there's a stretch of the triple wire guardrail through that is failing from those landslides. And it's such a long stretch and you can't tie into that guardrail's not installed anymore. So Federal Highway has agreed to pay for the entire length of guardrail along that stretch, so they'd be replacing it with the steel beam, galvanized beam guardrail. And then Halpin Road is just reset and add some anchors to the guardrail that's already there for where the culvert outlet blew out and damaged the guardrail. And then Creek Road is a new stretch where the shoulder is sloughing. It'll tie into existing guardrail, but just to keep traffic safe, there's another 80 feet that I think we need to put up down there.
Is it traffic calming to maybe slip into the swamp?
Maybe we'll leave the guardrail off if we want that approach.
We talk about not encouraging the speeds that we'd like people to drive, and if you
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there aren't any outfits available for installing guardrail. We got a quote from Vermont Rec, but it was $48,000, somewhere in that ballpark. So I reached out to Lafayette and they came in considerably lower. We'll just have to coordinate traffic control, either using our highway department or have Lafayette bring in traffic control.
Questions?
But it should all be supported. The federal highway piece of it, the High Street piece of it will be 100% funded. And then Halpin Road and Creek Road will go through FEMA, so they're on the 75, or again, for Middlebury, it's 87.5% reimbursement.
It's actually not too bad.
I'll move to approve the proposed contract with Lafayette Highway Specialties for $38,900 for roadway guardrail repairs.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And we're deferring on the line.
We're deferring on the other. So I think that takes care of you for this evening, Emily. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
We got what Dana's next.
Man, you could set a landscape record here.
Not a record,
Hey
but.
everyone.
Hi, Dana.
Hey, Dana.
Okay, I got a couple things for you tonight. The first is seeking approval to submit a grant application. This is a Libraries Transforming Communities grant from the American Library Association. It is for capital improvements. It's one of the very, very few library-specific grants available for building projects. The idea here is that it's for building upgrades that improve access to people with different kinds of disabilities. Our application is proposing making the library more accessible to people with mobility-related disabilities. Specifically, if we got it, the grant would go towards paying for the new elevator that would be installed as part of the renovation expansion. So the nice thing about it is you can apply for the highest amount, which is $20,000, and if you're not granted that amount, they'll automatically consider you for a lower tier of $10,000. So I am seeking approval to submit the grant.
Great.
Somebody care to make a
I'll
motion?
move to approve the proposed grant application of $10,000 to $20,000 by Ilsley Library to the American Library Association's Libraries Transformation Communities Grant Program to help address reducing barriers to those individuals with disabilities.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so the next thing is I'm seeking approval for a contract with CPG Enterprises. This is Christine Graham and Maeve McBride. They helped us with the feasibility study, and we are at a point now where we are starting to think about a capital campaign, and preparing to launch a capital campaign sometime in the new year. And in order for that to be a success, we really need professional guidance, and support. I had a really good experience with Christine and Maeve. In fact, Christine has kind of been consulting with the library for years since I got there. So I would really like to continue to work with her on the capital campaign. She initially submitted a proposal for the entire capital campaign, which I think will probably last at least a year, if not several years. And I asked her to reduce that to just focus on the quiet phase, which would be the phase leading up to the bond. I sort of told her if and when we have a successful bond vote, then we can talk about extending the contract at that point if we know we're going to. So this is essentially for the next 6 months or so. As we get further and further into the campaign, we will need less and less of their consulting time. So if and when we move forward beyond the bond vote, we would expect the next portion of this contract to be significantly less. The amount is going to be between $13,000 and $17,000. The library did not budget for this, but the new alarm system we installed over the summer ended up being significantly less than we thought it would. So we have about $14,000 left in that account. So this is kind of a two-part request. Part one is shifting that funding over so that we can use it for this consulting work. And part two would be approving the contract with Christine, with CPG Enterprises. If we end up being closer to that $17,000 figure, I can pay for the balance with the library's unrestricted trustees account.
Any questions?
Why do we call this a quiet phase? I just,
Because it's quiet.
it's behind the scene.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't know it from me broadcasting this over Zoom, but traditionally in a capital campaign, you want to have secured at least half, if not closer to like 3/4 of your goal before you kind of bring it to the public and say, hey, we're doing this, everyone start giving money. So during the quiet phase, we're going to be hopefully pursuing the larger lead gifts, and not asking the whole community to pitch in yet.
It's pretty much behind the scenes work, in other words.
Yeah, that's a more succinct way to put it.
And that's why all those thermostats, they always start out like half full on the thermometers. Yeah, I see.
They don't bring it out until
Yeah.
they get something
That's
to
right.
show.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and Christine will help us promote the bond issue and help us with communication surrounding that when we're ready to do that. That's kind of part of this as well.
Great.
She's very good at building thermometers. Okay, so we have need for two motions. Let's start with the first one to move the fund.
Okay. I'll move to shift $14,860 in unspent funds from the library's capital improvements budget line originally allocated for the now completed fire alarm upgrade project to allow for these funds to be spent on this proposed consulting contract.
Second.
Questions on that? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I also move to approve the proposed contract between CPG Enterprises and the Ilsley Library to provide fundraising, campaign consultation, and coaching relating for the proposed renovation expansion of the library at a cost not to exceed $17,500.
Second.
Seconded. Any comments on that? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, and the last thing is, 2 weeks ago, I think I was in front of you guys talking about a proposed arrangement with Waybridge, whereby we would provide library services to Waybridge, and they would give an annual appropriation to the town of Middlebury in exchange for that. You kind of said, yes, we're tentatively in favor of that, go forward and do the next step. And so what we have tonight is the next step, a draft letter of intent, which just kind of outlines what Waybridge would be getting and what they would be. I'm forgetting his bench, how Putnam has looked at this, and we've also, I've shared a draft with, the Waybridge Selectboard chair, so they've seen it, so they know that, it's on the table, and so I would put this forward as the next step in moving that process forward. Realizing, of course, that the residents of Waybridge would have to vote to approve it, but.
Dana, I love this. I'm glad that you're talking about delivering services in Waybridge as well as inviting them here. I think this is a lovely proposal, and I hope that it has traction.
Thanks so much. I hope so too. It would just be great for Waybridge, and I think it'd be great for Middlebury. I would be thrilled to see it move forward. So
Absolutely.
fingers crossed.
Any other questions, comments? Care to make the motion?
I would love to make the motion. Let me find it.
Oh, you didn't have it up? I'll make it.
Didn't. Oh.
I move to approve the proposed letter of intent regarding the membership program for the town of Waybridge residents at the Isley Public Library.
I'll second it.
Thought you had it up. I'm
Hi.
sorry.
That's good. Your name's against it. I don't really have county
No.
services in Vermont. but
Sheriff
this is the type-
and court. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the type of thing that really could be a model for some, and we talk about it in the fire services.
Yes, we do, and we should. It's funny, if you look at the state's fire districts, they don't quite line up with the counties. We're in Fire District 7, I think. So they've got some money that they dole out to regions of the state. But the one that's mostly Addison County doesn't include Ferrisburg in the north or Hancock, which makes some sense in the east. And like if you align some borders a little better, you could centralize some things together. Anyway, so it goes.
Yeah.
What would we
Yes.
do if we were efficient?
I know. Sleep
have-
more, I guess.
Maybe a few more roads.
Maybe a few more roads.
Kathleen, the Verizon licensing agreement?
So you have before you a proposed third amendment to the license agreement with Verizon for their use of the tower on Chipman Hill. And the good news is they've offered a considerable length of extensions for 7 5-year terms. The bad news is a slight reduction in the rental fee, but they did agree to a 2% cost of living here and some notice of termination, expiration agreement of the agreement terms that we asked for.
So we can cancel this with notice. Okay. When Cricket Cellular comes in and says that they'll pay us a bunch of
Sweep
money.
us off our feet.
Yeah, great, amazing.
Except they use Verizon.
Man,
I just can't imagine that this company isn't making the money needed to pay us what we ought to
of
be
course
paid.
they are. We have the
They
most
are.
expensive cellular contracts in the world. It's ridiculous, and the height and the access to that tower are great for this area, and yeah, it sucks.
What happens if we say no?
Then
Just out of
the
curiosity.
residents get crappier Verizon coverage, and they all complain.
Really, or
It-
will they
it
give
goes
us
in
more
the-
money?
It goes in the Congregational Church Tower like the other two already are.
Yeah,
Oh, is that, you have two on
They
there?
don't get as good.
If it gets crappy
It's,
service, they won't get
Those
many
of us to
customers.
the east, it's blocked by the.
cell phone,
Maybe 81.
mountains.
I have
But
Cricket,
is
I'm
there
happy.
another tower that, would they have to put one in somewhere? Just saying,
Yeah.
I wish we could hardball.
it's totally fine.
I feel badly asking to try to negotiate with these
It doesn't sound like they're
duopolists.
real willing to negotiate, but it would be curious.
Well, of course
To know.
they're not, they think they, But I'm legitimately curious, if we said no, what would be their next step?
And who would be willing to take their spot and how much would they be willing to pay?
Right. And are they really gonna lose that coverage? Because, cell phones have to sell themselves on coverage everywhere.
That's right. They need that
Well,
red
second.
map to sell
They
things.
need the red map.
They had a profit of $78.4 billion last year.
Yeah. I think they could pay us
They
more.
can.
In
They
Middlebury?
can't pay us more money.
So we should just buy stock.
Yeah.
Ask them for a stock option along with it.
What was the previous payment?
That's what I was looking for. I don't find it.
17? So it's,
It's not huge. I mean, it's quibbling for them to.
yeah,
They get way more than that out of my contract with them. And
Right.
if they didn't have a good service here, I'd go back to AT&T.
That's like one person. That's one person's cell phone for the year.
Right.
Like one family plan.
I guess that's why it's just like the principle of it just kind of gets.
Yeah, but out of 30 or 40,000 towers over the country, it's a lot of money. More profit.
Well, what I'm saying is how many towers are around, like how
Well,
close
this is
the-
why they
Not
have
many.
that so many $1 billion in profit
Right.
because they
Like, that's what I
nickel and
wanna know.
dime all of their tower
Where's
leases.
the next tower?
They put one up on I don't know what the name of the mountain is. There's a ridge down in Salisbury. They put one up a few
Okay.
years ago. Before that, we didn't get much service
Yeah.
down in that.
So see, taking this one out wouldn't even affect you. You got a solar.
They would lose a lot of, this would affect us because that doesn't reach
Yeah.
here. So they would lose a lot of customers.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's for $200, it's what, $2,400?
Yeah.
Is it worth tying Kathleen up for?
No.
No.
I think we,
I feel like we tried to
I know.
tried to leverage our beautiful
It was a
tower.
happy thought moment.
It'd be more impactful if you cancel your Verizon.
I can see that. I don't have Verizon, which is why I don't have good coverage. Yeah. All
I
right.
do, and it's excellent.
I move to authorize the town manager to enter into the proposed amended lease agreement with Verizon regarding the Verizon communications infrastructure on town property at Chipman Hill.
do we have a
Second.
second?
Second.
Okay. I was like,
Are there any questions or comments?
I have Cricket Wireless, so I'm happy.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Check warrants.
I reviewed the check warrants and found them to be in good order. I move to approve total expenditures in the amount of $7,953,815.37, consisting of $833,233.80 for accounts payable and $120,581.57 for payroll for the period of November 14th, 2023 through November 28th, 2023.
Second.
And for those that are interested, the majority of that accounts payable was the school taxes in the amount of $7 million, $229,984.88.
All in favor? Do I have a second?
second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you seconded? Okay.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. We are going to have an executive session, but we'll do select those board member concerns for HUD.
Yes, I want to say thank you to Andy for taking care of the flowers for Izzy's family. Thank you for doing that. Our heart goes out to Izzy. It's hard to lose. I'm assuming he was pretty young.
I expect so.
So we are thinking of her family.
She said very unexpected, so.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Heather?
I'm all set.
I went to an interesting talk last week with Peter Conlon. talking about schools, taxes, affordability, stuff like that. He showed graphs and made a discussion that I told him that I commented that the trends are unsustainable.
Of course.
$20,400 per student. And I challenged, I said, we in the towns are struggling keeping our tax rates low, and school taxes just seem to skyrocket. He says it doesn't appear anybody's willing to vote against any of the proposals that come up. I mean, he showed graphs and everything that the cost graph was going like this.
Sure.
And there's not going to be enough money.
We have had roughly the most expensive schools and the most middle tier educational outcomes by the metrics of states for a long time.
It was very interesting, and
Medical insurance costs are right there with them.
Yeah. Yep.
15-16% increases every single year. Which is not sustainable.
You have to spread it across a larger population, and we're not
No one can
building
move here.
homes.
We got no homes.
So.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you stymie growth.
well, that's yeah.
It's a big part of it.
That's a big part of the problem. And he was showing the growth, and I says, well, that's not going to help at all. I mean, we're not growing. We're not growing.
There's some indications that move for growth will get some support in the legislature this year. If it's in towns that do a good job planning and have designated growth areas, towns like Middlebury, I think there's 23 of them in the state that they feel would be easy areas to loosen up the strings on. So we'll see.
Nothing.
Farah didn't mention it, so I will. I was absolutely heartbroken to hear about the shooting in Burlington. That is the kind of thing which has always broken my heart as an American when it happens elsewhere, but not as a Vermonter. And I had thought that somehow to a person we were better than that, and that's not the case. Yeah, what a tough holiday with Izzy's loss, and then that just up the road. And alas,
to open it up and make it easier, but you still have, when you have large projects like what's going on Seminary,
yeah,
it trips a red
sure.
flag on the Act 250.
absolutely.
There's a proposal that was just revealed that would allow towns like us to have no,
I saw that.
that would have no limit.
Yeah.
That would trip the Act 250. It would
That's
be,
right. We could
it would be all town
we could take
oversight. Now,
local
you
control
still-
of the process.
You could take local control of the process. There's still,
Yeah.
and I intend to go and argue that it's a legitimate compromise. You still have state agencies like stormwater.
Sure.
The natural resources are still going to be involved, but it won't go through that same full-blown process, and you won't get the fees attached to the development that you do. Once it goes into Act 250, there's additional fees that helps
Mhm.
fund the Act 250 process.
Right.
So we'll see. But they briefed us at our annual training retreat, what the study came up with as a proposal, and it was actually seemed very reasonable, and I think it would help the state quite a bit. So it just so happens that two of our legislators are key committee chairs in this process, and so if you have a feeling on it, certainly reaching out to Amy Sheldon and Chris Bray. They will have some opportunity to either create or stymie the
Indeed.
process. So, all right, we have a need for an executive session on some legal matters.
Do you have it open? Or do you need me to do it?
He's not prepared
I'm
again.
not, again.
In accordance with Vermont's open meeting law requirements, I move that the board find that premature general knowledge of the consideration of legal matters would clearly place the select board at a substantial disadvantage because the select board risks disclosing its legal strategy if it discusses the legal matters in public.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I further move that the board enter into executive session to discuss the legal matters under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of the Vermont statutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're going to enter executive session at 7:57.